Got your objective. Don't let anything stand in your way.
see a drone.
Intruder sighted!
Over there!
So I actually joined a bunch of random legendary Stronghold teams and kept getting wiped. But interesting though, I think almost every random team I joined, when I died, the team died. That was always the consistent pattern I noticed. Is like, I'd go down inevitably at some point when I had teammates doing less damage with me, I guess. So they weren't, and they were going down faster. Because other than the beginning, when I first arrived and got one of these guys up, and I think I noticed almost no one else went down the rest of the time. And I mean, my job as a tank is to revive people anyway, but I've said before, this is not the best tank build for Legendary specifically. I still love it for Heroic and general content everywhere in the game. But Legendary specifically, you need to be more focused on reviving as the tank, which this build, by not going Revive Hive or Technician Tree for a shield build, is not the most ideal, but of course it's still OP. I still think at this showcase it was still really good. I was still contributing in my way as a tank, clearly, to this team. But we actually won finally, whereas before, on other teams, we were constantly getting wiped. I would join another one, and it's like, oh, we wiped again. And then someone leaves, and I'm like, well, I'm leaving then. It's just like, I need to make sure the whole team's here before I'm not joining it without a full team on Legendary. But yeah, we'd probably get like halfway through, then I would go down at some point, and then inevitably, because when I go down, I'm usually in the thick of it, so no one can easily get me up, and then I would just watch as the other three teammates just drop and we lose. Which really just shows you, again, it's in a way, it actually still shows how viable tank builds are on Legendary still, because it's like, yeah, I know you take such crazy damage that even as this pure tank build, I still get shredded. And part of it's definitely on me, because I don't play Legendary that often. So I could tell some cases where I died, I was like, okay, I'll admit that was on me. I just jumped in too quickly, or I didn't realize that there's a million, like, non-elite robots with these guys, and that I would absolutely die. Like, there's no way I can absorb that much damage. The machine gun robots are definitely the worst. The non-elite machine gun robots, the red and purple machine gun robots, not like the dogs, but just the straight up, just slow moving machine gun turret robots. They do the absolute most damage, period. Like, they are so aggravating. So there's instances in Legendary difficulty Strongholds where I think there's just a bunch of them right next to where I'm going, and then suddenly I can potentially just die really quickly, almost immediately from that, which happens sometimes. There was one Stronghold where I was just going smooth sailing with the team the whole time, just diving into the thick of it, absorbing all the aggro, killing a decent amount of enemies too, just because of sweet dreams, and killing the threats to me, while my teammates were mopping up the enemies around me. Which I like, because that's basically what they did here too. They just had way more DPS than the other teammates I did, so they could actually kill them quicker. And I mean, the first section is, I think Union's also just a better and easier one, because I think it has less, like, machine gun robots. Those ones I've noticed now are really the death of me on Legendary for a tank build. Like, red and purple anything is annoying, it's true. Red and purple enemies can always take me down, but the red and purple robots are definitely the worst. The worst ones to deal with. Heck, even the elite robots will still do good damage to me. Despite having 70% protection from elites, they'll still do a lot. Not nearly enough to not easily out-heal between my pure armor regen / shield, like, because I don't use my shield constantly. I can't on this build on Legendary, but I just swap to it occasionally to get Vanguard off. Go invincibility mode for a little bit, and then go back to dodging around with my base armor and Fixer drone healing me instead. That's how I like this build. But yeah, I finally joined this team, and I'm like, okay, now we have a shot, and yeah, we definitely did it. And I liked it because it was definitely a team effort. It's like, I definitely needed them to be doing that much damage. But I still felt like, again, that they needed me, because I showed up, one of them was already down, got him up. One of them was down, if you saw the chat, and both the other guys couldn't get to him. So then it was just down to two DPS builds, two frail DPS builds, hoping they don't get destroyed by the beginning wave. And I was able to show up, get the guy up, draw a bunch of aggro from the two other guys too, while I kept getting him up, and then just going right into the thick of it again. So I felt like we all kind of contributed in that environment. There'll inevitably be some that say, oh, you suck because you did less damage or whatever, and like, you weren't adding at all, or a fourth DPS member is actually all they would have needed. And I'm like, okay, whatever you say, man. Again, I can't begin to say how many times, as a tank player, when I die, the team dies. Like, I cannot begin to say how many times that happens. Easily more, like, on Legendary, and even on Heroic sometimes. Of course, I virtually never go down on Heroic, but there's still instances where I do something really stupid and mess up, and I can go down on Heroic too. But even in those instances, like, usually it leads to the whole team wiping. It doesn't lead to someone reviving me easily. So, I mean, that'll happen sometimes. I'm not saying it doesn't. I'm just saying more often, though, it leads to a team wipe, which just kind of confirms to me it's like, yeah, no, definitely tanks are very useful, at least in random matchmaking, when usually you don't have, not every player has the best build, or at least, even if they all have great builds, they aren't communicating with each other as easily. I'm sure a team of all DPS builds can easily do any Stronghold, just as I'm sure a team of all these builds, all my tank build could, I mean, honestly, with how tanky I am, you could take 3 other teammates in here. By the way, Vanguard stacks with other Vanguard users. We'd all be giving each other insane amounts of armor, insane amounts of regen, that, believe me, a team of tanks could also easily destroy Stronghold. But, of course, it would take longer, which is why everybody's going to go with a team of all DPS instead. And, yeah, 4 DPS players can do it, but it requires serious effort and communication, I think. Because, again, one wrong move for any of those players, you're dead, and no one usually can revive someone else because they're too frail on Legendary. So, anyway, I just also enjoyed this run. It was a good run.